Welcome to Truth Be Told, the podcast about being authentic. I am your host, Pierre Kasongo. Today, there are no guests. It's just me and my train of thoughts. I thought I'd do something a little different. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. It actually has been present ever since I started the podcast. Some of you may have noticed it, but I thought I would be honest about it and disclose it to everyone that is watching and that is listening. I have a speech impediment. That's right. You got me. In previous episodes, actually, let me rephrase that. In every episode, you have noticed that I use a lot of filler words, a lot of ahs, and a lot of odd verbal interruptions. It was actually my mother and my older siblings who had noticed that around that time, my speech had changed from what it used to be. And for a number of years, I did not act up on what I needed to do. And finally, in recent years, I decided to take up some actions about it. I certainly hope that today's podcast will be providing some catharsis if you are living with a condition. Now, keep in mind, even though I am talking about having a speech condition, yes, today in my podcast, I will be still using a lot of filler words. I'm very aware of that. The first time that my family had brought up this issue, I would say I was rather cynical about it. I hadn't been really paying much attention to it. But I decided that a few years later, the first step I would do is actually join Toastmasters. After all, my father was a member of Toastmasters. And for those who don't know, Toastmasters is an organization where people join to perfect the art of public speaking. I thought that by organizing, or actually, let me rephrase that, by joining that organization, I would become better at public speaking, at being able to speak off the cuff. At first, I didn't know what to expect. And I became better at it. I became more comfortable. I still have my moments where it's a little bit rocky, but I've become better. But yeah, there was still some ways to go. I needed to do more research. And it was actually in 2022, believe it or not, yeah, like 3 years after I joined the Toastmasters, which was back in 2019, that I started to really inquire about what could be causing my speech to be getting worse. And I did research online, and I found a peer-reviewed study on what of like a brain, a study of neurology, volume 126, issue 9, and it was from the University of Oxford. I talked to my neurologist about what could be, the possibility that the seizures are affecting a certain part of my brain that is controlling speech because of the seizures. Now, my neurologist, looked back at some of my previous MRIs, see if there was any irregularities. So far, no major irregularities were present. So that theory was gone off, and I had to think of what else it could be. Another thing that I did actually, which was really a, a major breakthrough, speech therapy. That was a major breakthrough. In that year, I decided to attend what is actually called the ISTAR. For those of you who don't know, ISTAR stands for Institute for Stuttering Treatment and Research. It's got two major locations, one in Edmonton and one in Calgary, but they are still able to help individuals worldwide. I actually started to attend therapy there, and while talking with my therapist, one of the things that she noticed was my breathing patterns. Apparently, I'm breathing wrong. I know, right? Of all things to get wrong in this world, breathing, the most fundamental thing that a human needs. Now, here's an interesting little nugget of information for you. Did you know that according to the Canadian Lung Association, the average individual breathes about 22,000 times a day? That's a lot of times to get inaccurate. And here's the way that we are supposed to breathe. Now, when we're supposed to breathe, air goes in through the nose. So we inhale through the nose. And the diaphragm expands. And when we exhale, air goes out through the mouth and the diaphragm retracts. What I do instead is simply use my chest. In fact, I get only use of limited air supply, and it does very little to help me. When I got that nugget of information, that's when that light bulb hit me over my head, because I was looking back at a moment in life, specifically back in 2016, when I was starting to take some dance lessons, and I had different dance partners, and all of them were asking the same question. not only in 2016, but when I rejoined in 2022, they were asking me the same question when dancing with them. Are you breathing? I know. Turns out, yeah, I was breathing, just not the right way. And it hit me like you wouldn't believe. All of these moments, I needed to rethink on how I breathe. In addition, when we were doing the speech therapy, we did numerous exercises, light touches, making sure that we start off the sentence slow and light. Doing two phrases with a certain amount of syllables, trying to recalibrate when I found myself not focusing. In fact, at times, that is actually a problem with me. My train of thought will be like a tornado where a bunch of random thoughts are not linear, I should say. Like rather than have like all building blocks all perfectly set up, it will be something as random as, hey, Purple Rain, Snoop Dogg. Oh my God, I need to get myself a copy. Mrs. Doubtfire. Who's going to be playing the next James Bond? Oh man, Showtime at the during the Laker games, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, for some of you who are listening, you are thinking like none of these concepts are even linked. They are absolute random thoughts. And that's exactly what happens sometimes in my head. They are they are not linear, they're not focused, and that's what causes me to have this speech impediment. Not always focused, and I just need to sometimes take my time to recalibrate. Another issue in my speech, believe it or not, can be if I get nervous or stressed. A tell sign is actually in my shoulders. I've had to look at some of the previous footage of my podcast, and the way that my shoulders are just rising, it's ridiculous. Like 1 minute it'll be here, and then as the discussion goes on and on and on, they're practically reaching my ears. It can be a sign of getting nervous. This is a physiological issue. I just need to relax. And it's also linked to breathing. Just be in the moment. Relax. Breathe. Just be focused. And it's actually the same thing that my personal trainer has said. My personal trainer has said the same thing about the diaphragm as well as my shoulders. And keep in mind, my speech therapist and my no, my fitness trainer have never met. They do not know each other at all. Both of them have said the same thing. It's quite shocking, right? Now, I know that there are in Canada a large amount of, there's about so many that are that have a form of speech disorder. In fact, there is over 440,000 people that have a form of communication disability. And whichever your situation is, I want you to know that it's going to be okay. And through that, there are resources. Is it a bit of is it an obstacle? Yes. But let it not define you, because you're so much more than your disability, than this condition. Months ago, when I started this podcast, I was speaking like this at a higher range, yet I was not really breathing as well and using a lot of filler words. But then I learned about how to breathe properly and speak in my own voice. And then I used how to use the diaphragm. And now I am using my own real voice. If you are seeking treatment for stuttering treatment, or if you know anybody that is seeking treatment for a speech disability, they can visit the Institute for Treatment. The Institute for Stuttering Treatment and Research at www.istar.ualberta.ca. They are able to help individual in person as well as online. And as I said, even though they have offices in Edmonton and Calgary, they are able to help individuals worldwide. That being said, thank you so much for listening. This is Pierre Kasongo saying, stay true.